Hey everyone, and welcome back to Everything Websites, the show where we break down what actually moves the needle when it comes to websites, design, and growth. I'm your host, Stefan, and today we're getting into a topic that's long overdue. So, UX that actually converts and not just looks good. Joining me is someone who's not just designing interfaces, but redefining how we think about UX in a business context. Pavle Lucic, he's a UX designer, strategist, and one of the sharpest voices on LinkedIn when it comes to product and conversion focused design. So, Pavle, welcome to the show.
Hi, Stefan, and thanks for having me here. So this is actually my first podcast. I've never been interviewed at any podcasts right now.
Okay.
So yeah, so just to introduce myself here,
Yeah,
I am a
please.
UX designer, strategist, content creator on LinkedIn, and in the last 15 or less than 15 years, I've been helping companies with their digital products. Not just to look nice, but to also have some results at the end. So that's what I've been doing the last 15 years. I can tell you that, for example, good design isn't just about how things looks or how it feels. It's more about helping users to take an actions and helping a business to grow at the end.
Yeah, I think UX in the end is just what matters and what to the users and what's gonna help the businesses to convert them into whatever they needed to be converted to.
Right.
To just start with, I really want to start with talking about the UX mindset shift. So the common misunderstanding of the user first approach. So what is your take on that?
My take on user first approach, I mean, it's good to have always user in focus,
Mhm.
when you're building something. But I will tell you what shifted my mindset. So it was a long time ago when I was working for, I don't know, some client,
Mhm.
building a product for them, actually designing a product. And that was the time when I had the biggest shift. It actually happened the first time I sat next to the real person, like the real user, and show him a design. That design was really solid design, at least from my perspective and from my team perspective. Clean layout, nice colors, typography, spacing, everything was nice. But when you watch someone to use it, you have different signals. And that was the moment that basically shifted my mindset. What happened is we had some expectation as a team. We expected that user will understand, some wording, they will understand where to click, where to scroll, what to do. But once you see how they interact with the product, once you see they for example, make a pause, few times reread some sentences or look confused, that was the moment I realized, it's not everything needs to be nice and fancy.
Yeah.
It should be a usable. At one point, the one user said I don't know what to do now, and that question actually hit me hard. Yeah, so that was the moment I realized you need to understand user first, and also at the same time you need to understand business, and you need to realize and understand how to tie those goals.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask because we have like two things. One thing is that obviously you're creating for a user because the client is not the one that's going to use the website. But then on the other side, you have clients and you have their business goals. So how actually to bridge that gap between them? How can you make sure that everybody is happy, or should you?
Right. Yeah, usually when working with clients, you have this kind of workshop where you need to outline what's their business goal, what pain points or problems they're solving for the user, how they are going to make a money. You basically talk about their business strategy when it comes. And on the other side, you also need to understand the users, what's their pain point, what's their goal at the end of the day, and how some business could help them to solve that those issues or those pain points they're having.
Yeah.
So at the end, it's like, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I know that from my experience as well, that the best way, like you said, is just to have this workshop that you can include everyone, and so that they can understand from there what they need to do, who they need to focus on, and what they will get the client. For example, if they take your advices and improve in that way. Yeah, there's also a lot of mistakes that can happen during the process that can kill conversions. Do you know, maybe on the top of your head, some of the mistakes that can harm the user experience and performance overall?
Yes, because like I mostly work on, helping businesses with their like SaaS or SaaS products or platforms.
Mhm.
And usually there's a lot of features there, a lot of options, a lot of functionalities. Like the first mistake I constantly see over and over again is like when you offer too many choices to the user.
Mhm.
Like it could be like a lot of paths, like a lot of pages for the same functionality, or it could be like a drop down with many options, or it could be like a huge menu as well. That's the number one mistake I see. People don't like too many options. So they don't want to have like 10 ways to do something. They just want one good way, right? It's always good to reduce the number of choices for the user because users have this term we're using as a designers, like a cognitive load. It's like basically a capacity to spend some time thinking about certain tasks. For example, let's say they're want to select some option, right? And once they have a lot of options, they will use more processing power of their brain to just decide which options to choose.
Yeah.
So it's always good to reduce number of options to just basically save their time thinking what to choose.
Yeah, I know that sometimes people like to complain, like maybe the design looks too empty, it's too minimalist. But I think that's it's good to be minimalist because then you have users focused on one thing at a time
Yes.
and playing around with colors, with elements, and all these like basic design principles. It can help you guide them better through the whole journey on the website, and making a better decision. Now, and I also think that is always best way just to test things if you're not sure. I think that testing is what lacks a lot today, and I think that's what needs to be included more, even if you have a smaller business. What do you think about that?
No, that's true. That's true. From my experience, like most of the businesses are not comfortable going into like testing, like doing like
They
proper
think it's
user
gonna be too
research,
expensive, or they don't have time for that.
or they're afraid maybe in some
Yeah.
cases what they will hear about their product. That's also a case. So most of the companies don't do that. So as you pointed out, they need to invest more time or more effort to do like real talk with the users at the end of the day, so they get like a proper feedback. We as a designers, we can give some feedback, like based on our experience, like what works well, what doesn't work. But at the end of the day, user is the one who needs to decide what works well.
Yeah. Even if you have a lot of experience, you really don't know every industry, every target audience. So you really need to, in order to make sure, is just to test it out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will tell you just a short story about that because
Mhm.
last year I had like one client which I didn't understand like the product, how it works, what is the proper way of working like for that product. But let's go back to the mistake, like number, let's say two. It's like I also see like a lot of like mistakes when it comes to designing. It's like businesses tend to request like from the designers to over design certain pages or products. It could be like marketing website, it could be like
True.
some dashboards. They want to have like cool colors, gradients, shadows, animations, but they forgot like one really important thing is to have like clear copy and to have like simple call to actions, like simple buttons. And that's what matters to the users most, because at the end of the day, user uses the app to solve the issue, not to look at fancy animations or fancy colors, but to have this one button that once they click it, their issues will be solved. So that's also like mistake number two.
I think it's also important that you look at it from a perspective. For example, if you land on a page or install the app, I'm usually working on websites, so I'm focusing on websites. So when you land on a page, you really need to know, it's a basic thing. You need to know, okay, so what is this about? So you need to give that answer right away. What I can do with this, and if this is what I want, how can I reach out? So just three simple questions that gonna, bring you a long time. Yeah, it can help you a lot.
Absolutely, absolutely. And number three is like I see like when I'm doing certain redesigns, I see like how some important actions are hidden, for example. So that's also like a mistake when it comes to, UX. So, for example, hiding a button, and then once the user hover over certain section, that button will be revealed, right?
Revealed, yeah.
Yes, revealed. So if the user don't have that on the screen, like instantly visible, they will be confused what to do next. So you put the user into the situation to, basically explore your app and try to figure out what the solution is instead of, solving their pain point.
Yeah, those can be like design examples that where people trying to make it look good, but they make this simple mistake that can bring conversion down a lot. But I want to ask you, when we are talking about user testings, do you know any couple of tests that people can do that are not very expensive and not doesn't require a long time to do them?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I've been using like this kind of guerrilla testing occasionally, that are not expensive and they're like quite easy to do. They basically it also depends on like in which phase of
Yeah.
you are currently, like, are you building a product from the scratch or there's already existing product or website. So for example, like the two tests I'm using like almost every time when I have like a new client or I need to test something, is I do like an interview. I try to find like in the circle of like friends and family, people who are hoping for people that are in that kind of industry or they understand the industry. So, for example, I like many years ago, I was doing some crypto project. Like I don't actually forgot what exactly project is about, but it's about something like selling, buying crypto, blockchain things.
When it was popular.
Yeah, when it was popular, and I found like several people's like friends who are who are experienced in that kind of industry. They are trading on the market. Some of them were developers who were like doing blockchain projects. So it was really easy to recruit those people and talk with them about certain aspects, just to understand the industry. Another thing is if you want to do like user testing, is like you can find like people, also friends and families. It could be your coworkers, and for example, you can show them the design, or page, and just ask them a few questions like, what do you think, for example? I mean, what do you think this page is about? Can you find like can you go and do checkout and you just watch how they are doing that? Or you can figure out multiple questions, So that was the easiest guerrilla kind of way of doing like testing.
My team and I really like to, for example, when we work with a client, if they're not doing a project from scratch, if they are redesigning, then we like to ask them, okay, so can we take some of your current clients' users to test them, And I think that way is also pretty good because you already have their clients, people using their product. So it's best way to test it. Sometimes, I mean, also happens many times people they don't like to be involved with this kind of stuff. So if we cannot do a user testing, I think the least option that we can do is to do the A/B testing, the less painful one.
All right, right. Yeah, I want to just tell you a little story from I think last year. I've been working with some client on the software for a call center. So they had like really this huge and complex software with a lot of functionalities, features, visualizations. And they asked me like the first question is what we need to as a business, what we need to fix on this software, right? And for me as a designer, when I look at that software, it was like I have no idea. I'm not the user. Really, I can tell you like you can like for example
Yeah.
change the menu or navigation, but it doesn't mean that it's a right
Personal
decision.
preference.
At the end, I just initiated like user interviews. It was like kind of mixed testing, like it was like user testing, basically usability testing of their app with a bit of questions that goes into like user interviews, like trying to get an insight from the people about their experience. So I remember using some third-party tool where I recruit users, the target users for them, preparing the questions and preparing like actually access for the app.
Mhm.
So yeah, at the end, we just launched that testing. We got results, and after just creating a report based on what I see there, we had like what actionable steps we need to do in order to improve the application. So the user testing is the holy grail of
Yeah.
deciding what to do next with the app.
I want to also talk about designing for the KPIs and how we can align the business goals with the UX. So maybe we can just start off by asking ourselves, what would be the first thing for you, for example, as a designer, to ask before you even open the Figma, if you're thinking about the KPIs?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah. Opening Figma is basically the last thing you need to do as a designer.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So the first thing when I sit down with someone who needs help with, is to ask him like first like to understand the business, obviously, what he's doing, why he's doing, how he's making money. But for me as a designer, the most important thing is to understand what's the goal of specific page, let's say, right?
Mhm.
So what's the main goal of this page, right? That could be like a like simple sign up page, or it could be like buy something page, or it could be like a click a button. So that could be like some sort of goals. Also, the second question is I'm asking like how we will measure success, right, of this project of this UX. It could be like to reduce the churn rate. It could be to more people to finish the, let's say, certain flow,
Mhm.
more clicks, right? And the third question would be like, what's stopping users right now from doing that, right?
Mhm.
So those are basically three questions as a designer you need to understand, right? First, before jumping into the Figma, because all these questions are tied to the business outcome, right? And the business outcome is usually just help client to make more money, right?
Yeah. I really like to ask like more broad questions, like maybe gonna sound vague, but I like to ask to a client how do he see his business in 5 years? Because that kind of the answer to that question is gonna help me also thinking about the overall structure of the website. So if he's not thinking about expanding more in this direction, maybe he don't need a huge website. Maybe just he need a landing page. So that can basically save him a lot of time and money not to invest a lot in this website. Maybe he just needed to start out. So yeah, I always like to ask broader questions first to trying to understand the overall goal, and then just like a funnel, and then to narrow it down to more exact questions. Um, from
Absolutely.
your from
Yeah.
your examples, how do you tie the UX to the key metrics, to the conversion, retention, and these kind of things?
That's a great question. So how do you tie the conversion metrics?
UX to the key metrics, to the like conversion, retention, user retention. So how do we actually bridge that gap between that? How do we make focus on this?
Right. Everything comes to like that was the reason why the first question, what is the main goal of the
Mm-hmm.
specific screen or specific app, right? Is you need to somehow figure what the metric is. So if we are talking about, let's say, e-commerce
Yeah.
website, right? You have like this sky buy button, right? And that's the for the UX, that's the metric that that's the goal of UX to help the user to fast as possible or as easy as possible, go to the checkout and buy something, right? On the other side, that button basically increase the revenue of the business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, everything comes down to that, to understand how the user interacts with the app and how they can go to the certain goal
Yeah.
of the specific page.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Finish, and then I'll ask the follow up.
No. You can just
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, I just want to ask, okay, so once we figure that out, so we know what is the conversion, what brings success to the company and business and client, and what is important for users, how do we measure that? I know there's a lot of tools.
Okay.
Any specific tools that you recommend that gonna tell us, okay, so this is what happened, this means it's improvement, it's a good thing, or it's a bad thing. What would be, in your opinion, the best tool for that?
Yeah, if you're talking about the tools, like to measure basically some metrics, we have like, I mean, I've been using several tools. Like one of the first tool I've been using, and I think that's essential tool, is just Google Analytics or any analytics tool that could
Or
be.
like a broader approach?
Yes. And analytics could give us like a broad picture, like what's happening with the app. You can figure out like, for example, the most important metrics would be to understand how the flow looks like in the terms of numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Drop-off rates, that's the most important. You can also see how many people are triggering certain button or actions
Yeah.
to just understand, and you will have like a picture of what's happening, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go level deeper to understand a bit more, you can use like some sort of session recording tools, like for example Hotjar, to maybe understand, like let's say you have like analytics and you see certain funnel there, you see like huge drop off rate on certain page, right? And for that case, you want to understand, like as a business, like why is this happening, right? Why I have like a huge drop off rate or slight drop off rate, it doesn't matter. Then you need to understand why is that happening. I'm not sure that you can use analytics to figure out that
No,
specific
yeah, I don't
issue.
think it's not that specific.
Yes, but what you can do is you can switch another tool. So you can start using like session recordings, and maybe you can just record that specific page, right? To see
Mm-hmm.
what people are doing with that page, right? So for example, Hotjar or some similar tools, they have like this session recording feature where you can rewatch the videos
Mm-hmm.
recorded from the user perspective and see what they're doing on the page, you know.
Yeah.
You can like build some certain of assumptions there, right? For example, also you can use like a survey tools. For example, you can reach out to certain users and ask them why they abandon, let's say, a shopping cart. That could be also an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can, you know, just work with that data you collect from their feedback.
Sorry,
You
just one
can.
quick question. For example, if you use the survey tool, actually, are there a lot of people that actually answer you on the surveys?
It really depends on like it really depends. Like the more people you have, the better survey results are because it's more relevant. You know,
Yeah.
it really depends on access, what kind of access you have to your users, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're like early stage startup, you probably won't have you probably don't have access to the users. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're like a mature company with a huge user database, then it's really easy for you to access, you know, the
Yeah.
users. And
Yeah, that's
so
true.
it depends on the situation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted you,
No,
but
no, no, no worries.
I just wanted to hear because I know about that, but it's not always the greatest results from the survey.
No. From the survey, you can only figure out. You cannot have complete picture like what's wrong with the app, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can all. It's like basically like doing. Designers are sometimes like doing like some sort of like an inspectors, right?
Yeah.
Like hired private
Technical.
investigators. So you need to have a set of tools and to figure out how you will solve the certain issue. But solving an issue is like multi-step part, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to rely on surveys sometimes, then you need to combine with user interviews, then usability testing, and so to have like a better picture of what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay. I mean, I think we touched a lot of different things, and this is something that we can just talk about for a very long time.
right?
I just want to wrap it up for now, and maybe for like a last question would be, what is your number one tip for designers who want to get taken seriously by stakeholders?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So when I was junior designer, I always ask questions, what I need to do, like what's the task,
Yeah.
right? But once you gain some experience and have your hands dirty, you start asking different questions. And you need to ask like stakeholders first, like you need to understand the business. That's the really important thing because stakeholders love to talk about business. And once you start talking about business, they will look at you as someone who is really experienced and senior.
And knows the industry as well.
So yes, so like there's like three essential questions. It's like what's the goal like of your business or this app or whatever. Second questions is how design or how I can help you to get there. And the third question is how we will measure a success. So what success will look like for you. And once you start asking those questions, the stakeholders will start chatting around it and they will look at you with the different lenses, right? So
Yeah.
like this, they will look like this person is not just like a designer or pixel pusher. He is a designer who understands business, and that's what's most important for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's all about the confidence that you gain or with experience, but it's good thing to just start asking those questions as soon as possible, and to just gain some experience from there, and you will get confident in time.
Yes, it takes time. It takes
Yeah.
time for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, like everything, you just need to take some time to work on it to become an expert.
absolutely.
Okay, so there's maybe one more question, but I don't know if I should ask it right now because it might be too broad. Let's keep it for maybe some other time. For the end, where people can find your work, where people can find you, is there something else, some other platform beside LinkedIn?
Great question. No, only LinkedIn right now.
Okay.
I still don't have a website, even if I'm designing and building websites for others. I didn't
Yeah,
find time to build for myself, and
you're
I
not
think
the only one with that.
that's the most common issue when
Yeah,
you're working as a designer or developer as well.
yeah.
So only LinkedIn, like that's where I have like a Behance and Dribble, but I really didn't like update for a very long time. A lot of my case studies projects are kind of confidential, so I'm not sharing them publicly. But yeah, LinkedIn.
Okay, hopefully we'll see your website soon. I don't know if this year, but maybe next year. It's gonna be, I mean, that's for you, so it's gonna be just easier for you to share work. But I know it's a lot of commitment
Yeah.
because you just need to keep working on it. It's not a website is, guys, it's not never a one-time thing. You always need to constantly work on it, even if it's just a landing page. If you want real results, you need to work on it all the time.
Yeah.
That's the truth. Okay, so everyone, thank you for sticking with us to the end of this podcast episode. Share whatever you want, with other people. If you like this, let me know in the comments what you think. If you want more of this kind of things in the podcast, and see you in the next episode. And thank you, Pavle, so much for your being here today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me here.
Okay, thank you guys. See you next time. Bye.